Welcome to the Annoyed Adult Podcast. My name is Howard Chen, and we are joined again with Taylor Cable. And Taylor is a friend of mine, known him from jiu-jitsu. We are going to talk, and as a Gen Xer and as a millennial, we are going to go ahead and talk about some things that generally annoy us. But the first thing actually I want to talk about was, first, Taylor, how are you, man? Before I jump on this show.
Doing well, man. I'm glad to be back on the show. Thanks for having me. First one was definitely a blast. You don't realize how much fun it is to talk about things that annoy you until you jump on and talk about things that annoy you. So good to be back, man.
Yeah, it's cathartic. It's cathartic to just get things off your chest, right?
Yeah, therapeutic.
Therapeutic. I got a little jealous, man. I got a little jealous of you because you went on a trip to Japan.
I did. So yeah, my wife and I went the end of May. So we were there about 10 days. So end of May till like first week or just into the second week in June. So yeah, about 10 days we went to Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo, stayed in the Shinjuku area. But then we did day trips to Hakone and Kyoto when we were in some of the different areas. So checked out a few different places, but super awesome.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that on our last show together. And then I was so excited that you went because my wife's birthday is coming up. And she goes, I'm gonna go to New York. I'm like, absolutely not. Don't go there. don't go to New York. She goes, why? I'm like, so I just came back from a trip, a work trip to Korea, and when I went there with the other teachers and whatnot, I had such a blast of their culture and the way people are treated, like, and it made me realize, this cultural shift. And so, and we'll talk about that in a second. But my wife goes, no, I want to go to New York. I'm like, no. You're going to Japan. And so her and her sister are going to go on Japan for like a 6-day adventure for her birthday. Yeah, I'm like, don't go to New York. Go to Japan. You've never been to Japan.
I'll be hooking up. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, yeah, you got to go. But because it's, and you probably experienced the same thing. So this is the first time I've ever traveled outside of the U.S. Now, I've been coast to coast, and it's just America, just different flavors of America, I guess, right? And I guess you could say that for any country. But when I landed in Korea, I just kind of felt like, oh, this is pretty like clean and safe. And then what really exemplified that on my very first day waking up, like I got up at 5 a.m. because of the time difference, and and our first hotel was in this industrial town by Incheon, and I looked around like, oh, it's kind of like a rundown city. Hotels are right, it's a rundown city. It's just our first stop, but there wasn't like vandalism on the walls. There wasn't litter on the street. There wasn't homeless people running around or just laying down everywhere. And then the thing that got me was, how you have the convenience stores, right? You just imagine a convenience store, right? Okay, so here in Hawaii, if we have a convenience store that's closed and I took like pallets of beer and soda and food and I put them outside of your shop, right? Would they still be there?
Probably not.
Probably not.
There's a 99% chance of them.
Yeah, they had stuff just like laying out on pallets in front of these stores, and like like the normal like cold case when you go into a store and you open the refrigerator and you take a drink out and you like close the case.
Yeah.
Well, those are outside the stores because you can grab a drink if you want to, and then you bring it inside to pay. Those were not locked because I didn't see a lock on them, and there's no like key lock. There's no like, and I'm like, oh my god, the honor system in this place. That you don't steal because stealing is bad. Everyone knows not to steal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is insane. Yeah. Like, did you experience that in Japan?
Yeah, so it was the same thing, man. It was like you just see different things that I don't think, if you one for one took that same situation scenario and put it in America, that it would work the same just for the reasons we just mentioned that, like, I don't know, socially, culturally, whatever, that they do something there. And I think both those realms that, I don't know, more agreed upon higher values. Because when I was in Japan, it was like bikes, because they, a lot of people use bikes that and public transportation, and bikes would just be like left outside, not locked, just kind of like right outside the store. And then same thing you said, like deliveries just right outside the store. They don't have to worry. There's no like here in America, right? We got those big like shipping areas in the back of the store with like a roll down
Yeah.
door, so that way they can stick it inside, lock it, and not have to worry about it. But in Japan, yeah, it's like the theft and the cleanliness. Like that was two things I noticed. Just there, like no trash or lying around the streets. And the thing that got me, which we mentioned in the last episode, was just like the concrete trucks being clean and they're being used, and that's like just not a thing you see. So I'd say for sure that was the same thing I experienced in Japan. Was just like the
The system of values.
and then the high level of cleanliness.
Yeah, like I saw bicycles everywhere too, like mopeds, bicycles, just
Yeah.
like leaned up against the side of the pole, like
Yeah.
no lock.
Yeah.
Like whose bike is this? Like I'm just like looking around, like no one's around me. Whose bike is this, right?
Yeah. We can even continue that same conversation in kids too, right? Kids in Japan just off on their own, going to school or wherever they're headed to, taking the train by themselves or just walking by themselves, which
Just doing whatever.
I think is an insane conversation of just like, things we just don't see here in America because, I don't know, we got, I guess, too many problems or need to reestablish our values as a country or something.
Like collectivism versus individualism, right?
Yeah, really. I think it is. And I think, I don't know, where it all stems from, but it's definitely, I think, something, especially now with like the prominence of like, smartphone and social media, even more played into individualism, right? Because Instagram, what is it about? It's about you posting pictures about your life, your story. Oh, I got to post pictures about my story so people know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it feeds into that. And obviously, Japan and Korea obviously take into the social media space. So you can't just say, hey, we, indulge in it and they don't. So obviously they do. But I definitely think as I think just culture for them, like they still have maintained that collectivism. Because obviously, like you said, it plays into like, these values they take on and how they can, leave things outside and unlocked and don't have to worry about them against.
Yeah. Another thing I saw too, like when we traveled from like Incheon to Busan and back, like from I don't want to say North Korea, like the northern part of South Korea, right, to like the southern part of South Korea, and back and through all these different towns like Gumi and whatnot. And I gotta be honest, man, I haven't seen a fat person.
Yeah, it's not super common. I think that
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
I think
like when you go to the South, it's like it's kind of a high obesity rate, right?
Yeah. Oh, like, for sure in the diet and just how obese.
Dude, I didn't see that there.
Yeah, I think portion sizes. That was something like even in Europe, for sure Japan more, but like portion sizes, man, when they serve them like here in America, it's like twice or even more of what they're getting there. So I think that, and then I think what we hit on too, like just in their everyday life, right? Like here we use cars more and down, but there it's like more of like passive activity, meaning like they walk or they bike or they're getting that active, like low active kind of cardio, I think, throughout the day. But yeah, definitely didn't see like a obese Japanese person miles there either.
Yeah, I was tripping out. I gotta be honest. I was like completely tripping out. Like, but you know what it is too. Like when you go to eat, like in Japan, they have. In Korea, like we had this like. It wasn't like it was like a hot pasta where like you have all the what is it called, bochan, where they bring the little bowls of vegetables, and then you have your meat. I think maybe that's like a component too. Like when we eat here in America, it's like here's your fucking pizza and your large Coke.
Yeah.
Right. Where's your salad? Like, where's all your veg?
Yeah,
and I think maybe that was helpful eating all that. Yeah, eating all those vegetables. I didn't see vandalism, and so when we went to like different schools, when we visited different schools, like they showed us what they had, and their like 100-year-old school was cleaner and nicer than the school I work at.
Yeah.
Right. And for those that are new to the show, like, yeah, I'm a high school teacher, and I look at my school, I'm like, oh my god, I work in a dump, right? Like I told my boss who came, I told one of the VPs who came on the trip, like, dude, I quit. I'm gonna go work in South Korea. Yeah, leave me here. I quit. Abandon everybody. Just no, no, no.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we are so behind. Uh, and then I was asking one of the teachers. I pulled one of the teachers aside. I said, "Hey, like, can you honestly tell me what's the biggest problem you have with students? Like, so in America, Taylor,
Yeah.
what do you think is one of the biggest problems we have with students?"
Oh man, I'm a little disremoved from the school system, so for those of them, I'm not a school teacher, but I for sure say it's probably a respect thing, as well as I don't know, just getting kids probably to care about school. Obviously, there's different topics they can be interested in. I think overall now with like different paths and avenues they can go, right? I imagine even with like sports, with like the NIL, that's probably playing a factor in college too, right? Because college athletes, but it's getting off track. For high school students, I definitely say it's I'd say respect and like I don't know how to put it short, like passion about school. I'd say that'd be the two.
Yeah, yeah, man, you're right. Like, we have a problem with like disrespect to teachers from students because like there's enough memes of it online. Like, all you've got to do is just look a little bit, and we just talk about the students being disrespectful, and then, but it's not just that. It's like we have like vaping problems and all that
Oh
too.
yeah,
And so I asked this Korean teacher, like, what's your biggest problem? And then she told me, oh, it's academic bullying.
sure.
I'm like, what? She goes, academic bullying. I'm like, what is academic bullying? So the high performing, like A level students, like the 4.0s, the ones that get all the best
Just
scores,
literally.
they fucking bully the kids that don't do well in school. And I'm like, this is a trip. This is
This is
insane. And so
of all
yeah,
the
so the
fucking
second,
problems I have, it's like the most low
yeah,
level problem. Like, oh, kids that do better make fun of kids that do less. It's like no disrespect, no vaping, no none of that.
no.
Just academic bully.
Yeah, like, oh my God, you got a 92%, you're a fucking dummy.
Yeah.
Right? And then so I texted on Instagram the two valedictorians from last school year because we're Instagram friends.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, guess what? In an alternate universe, you guys are the bullies. You like kick people's lunches over. Like, what are you talking about? Like, in Korea, since you're the high performing kids at this school when you graduated, you would be the bullies in Korea.
Hey.
And you're like, that's insane.
If
That's
you were born in
insane.
Korea, you would be a bully. So
No, no, I'm not that smart. I'm just,
well, I was saying
I'm
you saying to your
fortunate. I'm just not-
friends, you saying to your friends, they'd be the ones.
yeah. They would be. I would be bullied.
You'd be taking
I
people's
would
lunch
definitely
money because they got a 3.0 instead of a 4.0.
be like knocking shit over.
Give me your
Like, you
lunch
don't need to
money.
study.
Dumbass B student.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think what it is too, and so from a parent's point of view, it's like a family honor system.
Boom.
Like, if you don't do well in school, your family is shamed.
Yeah.
And so my second follow up question to her was that the teacher. I said, "Do you have a teacher shortage here in Korea?" And she goes, "Oh no, no. It's a strong desire to be a teacher because it's a desirable job." I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
Oh, I now I definitely quit.
Yeah. The
Right?
complete opposite of America.
Yeah. I go, so why is that? And she goes, well, to be a teacher in Korea, and I think maybe the same in Japan, is you have to pass a civil service exam, which can take up to 6 days, 2 hours a day of written, and then like the last day is an interview. So it's a 6 day long process. And if you fail, you can't take it until next year. You have to wait a year.
Right.
So how we study for like SAT and all that
Yeah.
here too in America? In Korea, they from what I've been told, is that students study in high school for the civil service exam,
How
and then
you
you
knew
take
that
the
or
civil service
when you
exam.
become a teacher?
Yeah, or to work in government,
Oh,
and then
that's right.
it's very honorable when you pass. Like, you are now a teacher. Students will respect you, and that's how it is there. Students respect the teachers. If you don't pass, you are like shamed, I guess.
Mhm. Until you pass, or if you fail once, it's gonna fall.
Oh, if you fail once, you got to wait 1 year to take it again.
I was wondering
But then I'm pretty sure
if they fail, like,
in a culture of academic bullying, right?
yeah, I'm sure it follows like, oh, you failed the civil service once or something. Sure, it continues.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, here comes one time loser trying
Yeah.
again.
First time failure, second time failure. But that's
Yeah,
crazy. It's probably what follows like the respect. It's just the length. I mean, obviously, to become a teacher, it's no easy thing here in America either. So I got to do college. I don't know. Maybe it's just the testing duration because it scares people away. So it's a more like a smaller number of people, I guess. But then again, I think if it's for the government too, maybe not. But yeah, that is pretty crazy. It's six
yeah,
to eight tests.
yeah.
Rather
And
than anything.
she also told yeah, and she also told me that you know how like teachers here in America you like stay with the school until you like
Yeah.
retire? In Korea, you have to move every 5 years.
Oh,
So every 5 years, the teacher has to go to a new school. You can come back, but you have to leave
I
for the
see.
5.
So you could go back and forth between your two favorite schools every 5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
and principals leave they move schools every 3.
Wow.
And so I asked her why does the teachers have to leave and move, and why the principals move? It's an anti-corruption measure.
How would
It's a South Korean government anti-corruption measure.
well? I guess how would they? What would be the corruption you do in a school just as a teacher?
Like, well, thanks for asking because at this school,
I mean,
we have like a lot of old teachers who are stuck in their ways and they're
oh, I see.
just
I see. More, yeah,
just they're just bad for students and bad for morale because like they leave early and they think they're tenured so they can't they don't have to do anything. I'm like, dude, you took this, like, you forgot what it's like to to be a teacher, I guess. Like, you forgot, like, you're here to inspire lives and change lives and try to make a next generation significantly better.
yeah. Okay, I
But
see corruption from that standpoint. Sorry, I thought I
yeah,
literally meant like money fraud of some sorts in a school. I was like, wait, how would that work? How would that work in a school? How
yeah,
much money? But from the tenure side, I see what you mean. That like,
yeah. Like, don't get stagnant. Like,
yeah,
be refreshing.
yeah, they can just get stuck in a position, and then, like you said, kind of quality begins to drop off from them as well as like efforts. So that makes sense. But yeah, that totally
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, you can make the argument too. I know like our political system does that somewhat, but like, you got people in Congress that are like way up there in age that might be a good tactic too. Is like, hey, you got to phase out or move around or something.
Yeah, you gotta move, man. You gotta get out of here.
Because yeah, I would say for sure that'd be good in schools. Just because, like you said, it keeps them fresh. I mean, I guess that also would make people reconsider right becoming a teacher because now right you can become a teacher, get in the school in the area you want, and then just stay there forever. Which some teachers probably do good, some teachers don't, depending on the individual. But it makes you really consider so much that test like becoming a teacher. It's like, hey, if I really want to do this,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to take a 6-day test, as well as now I'm gonna have to move every 5 years. Maybe not me physically move where I live, but move where I work. So I think maybe
Yeah, I
the
don't
wall
I don't
kind of
I don't know where they would move to. Yeah, I don't know what school they would move to. I would presume somewhere close to where they live, like another district.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of crazy that they expect teachers to move like physical location like every year, but I think it kind of plays into more of that like it weeds out the people that are like, oh, I want to become a teacher because it's an easy job, fucking cake, just go
Yeah.
in, collect a check, foster on some kids, go home. That like when you have these other
Yeah.
factors that it's like, oh, there's more into it. Like you have to really want to do it, or more so than I guess the U.S. system.
And speaking of teachers, we typically, well, when people typically complain about like older teachers, right? But dude, I have a coworker. She's a younger teacher, and if she listens to the show, then good. It's about you. You're definitely on the right track. But no, she's a new teacher, right? She's a new teacher, but she has this like attitude, like she knows everything. She doesn't need to be told what to do. And so let me give a little story of how this came to be. And I'll start with jujitsu, where you and I train.
Yeah,
And for those that don't know, I had spinal surgery. Um, and for those of you watching the video of the show, here it is. It's right
a
here. But
bionic
I
neck,
had a
man.
spinal vertebrae. Yeah, I got another thing, but that's a whole other thing. No, but so people got promoted ahead of me as I took 7 months off to recover, and then as I came back, a couple days ago, and then even like last night. So last night, you know how at the end of training we stand by our rank, right?
Yeah.
Higher rank to lowest rank, and it's just a respect thing. That's what we do,
Yeah.
and we line up and then we high five each other at the end. Well, I see the people that I train with; they're like 1 degree higher than me. Like, oh, you guys got promoted when I wasn't there. That's cool. I'm really proud of you. I'm gonna go stand in my end now because I'm not as high as you guys
Okay.
now. And Tiffany and this other and another person said, Howard, you're an OG. Come stand with us. What are you going back there for? And I was like, I was really touched, man. I was really touched. They're like, no, Howard, you're an OG because I've been there since the school almost, the school opened, and then a month later I was there, right?
Yeah.
So that's how long I've been at that school, at that place we train at, and then shout out to Mono Jiu Jitsu and Manoa. Anyway, so
Free plug.
yeah. And then so, but it made me realize, oh, out of just pure respect, you allow me to stand with you, right? And so here at where I work, I am the oldest person by experience in my department, right? And but this person, and so when I ask other people in my department if they need anything, whatever they need, I go get it. Yesterday I carried like 2 6-foot tables up and down a walkway and some stairs, and I was dying. But I don't need thanks. I don't need congratulations. I don't need somebody to help me. I'll do it because another person in my department needed
You're
it.
training for jiu-jitsu.
But this young, huh?
You're training for jiu-jitsu.
Training, yeah. If I can pick up a table, I can pick. No. But this young teacher, every time I try to tell her to do something, she says like, "Well, why? Okay, yeah, but I already did this. Yeah, okay, but." She's always saying, "Yeah, okay, but."
Man.
I'm like, "Can you just shut the fuck up and just do what I ask?" Right?
Yeah.
Gen Z.
I mean, hey, some people, it's like, I don't know. They just
Like,
it's probably the
when
same
you
person
train,
that's like never, what I mean, their fault. There's always like, they messed up, but there's, oh, I fucked up,
yeah,
but it's because
yeah,
this special situation occurred that caused me to fuck up. Like I
yeah.
said,
Like when you train and I train, and if like some brown belt or black belt told you what to do, you don't say, "Okay, but."
yeah,
You just say, "Oh, okay, let's try it."
yeah,
Right? You just do the move, you do what you got to do, and then you absorb what you can. She makes so many excuses. And the other day, she's in a position where she has to do some paperwork now. Like she took over an old position of mine,
Mhm.
and I gave it to her because I was trying to give her some responsibility,
yeah.
and she had the balls to say to me, "Well, I got to do all this stuff now because your problems." I'm like, "Hold the fuck on." So you better shut your mouth and watch the way you talk to me.
Oh,
I'm like, "Are you shitting me?" And so that's what she said to me, like, "Oh, because of me." I'm like, Jesus,
yeah.
like,
I don't know. There's, I guess, healthy level of questioning, but yeah, there's some level where a line that you definitely cross for sure. Because, like you said, it's in any workplace, right? Because you're always going to have a boss
yeah,
unless you're the owner of the company, and
yeah.
even then,
I
the
like,
company got people to answer to. So I just feel like you said, sometimes when someone tells you something, I don't know. I don't know if that goes into the way they're raised too. Maybe that's a part of it that, like, when she questions her parents, they didn't like spank her, hit her with a belt, or you know what I mean? Kind of what
nobody
we had
told you
growing up.
no.
Yeah, kind of that thing. I feel like it kind of stems from that because, you meet some people that, like I said, are somewhere that they didn't accept that respect thing that, hey, an elder or person in authority like tells you something and you just say, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, it's like, all right, well, just kind of acknowledge and take respect. Similar to your parents, it's like, oh, you got to do this. Why?
Right.
Because I said so. All right, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it might be from that, but yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It seems, I don't want to say it's a more common thing, but who knows, maybe with the prevalence of social media it is. But yeah, it's like less
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
less
I don't
respect,
know.
at least initially. You know what I mean? And there's a time and place when you earn respect and then question somebody, but like I said, it has to be earned. It's not just like you get to do it off the rip. Like, oh,
Right.
like
It
you
has to be
establish
earned.
that
Like
rapport, like, hey, like, you know what I mean? But so
yeah, like motherfucker, I've been here 10 years.
yeah, I've done my
I
time kind of thing. It's like,
I done I yeah, I put my time in. Because I frequently, tell the story of when I first
Go
started,
ahead.
my first couple of years, like I think my first 6 years, I was the green pea, I was the rookie, right?
Mhm.
And so when they said, Howard, I need you to do this, I'm like, okay, I fucking hated it. Howard, you're gonna do this, okay? You're gonna handle this, okay?
Yeah.
And I just said okay because I want to be a team player and I want to absorb what I know. And for example, like she was on this new teacher committee, and so the new teacher committee is for your first 2 or 3 years as a brand new teacher, you go into this committee and they help you to like learn about being a teacher and all that.
Mhm.
And she comes out of these meetings and she tells us that meeting was nonsense. I already know this stuff. I don't need it. I'm like, and she's making fun of the other new teachers in there. And so me and another senior teacher, and she's joining us in this conversation. I'm like, what the? And so my coworker and I look at each other and go, is she serious? You know, you're the rookie.
Yeah.
You're the green pea. You're the new teacher making fun of another new teacher. It's like a white belt making fun of another white belt. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like you're both terrible, right?
You're both bad.
You're both bad at doing the thing you do. Like, why are you making fun of each other? You should be helping each other. You should be supporting each other.
Yeah.
And so we tried to be very supportive of her to like bring her up. And every time I ask her to do something, again, resistance.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, it's kind of interesting as you build teams in any workplace, like how somebody like that can really be like, it's not saying they can't come around, but just how one person, this bridges, I think, back to our like, collectivism versus individualism conversation, that like,
Yeah.
how one person can affect, the mentality of a group. Because once one person starts doing it, and other people are like, well, wait, like, I had to do it that way, but she's not. So it's just, like I said, tough because then it starts to affect any like team dynamics. Like once you get somebody like that in, and you know what I mean,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Like
improving or changing the way she acts, and it kind of goes unchecked. Which not saying that this is that situation, but can definitely affect the team when you have kind of somebody that comes in like that and does it kind of.
like at this point, we're just waiting for positive growth on her
Yeah.
end.
Because
Like, when are you gonna grow, man?
yeah, it's like, hey, we've told you, reprimanded you so many times. It's on you at this point to accept it.
Yeah. Like, cause you're a millennial, and as a millennial, I don't get this from millennials.
Yeah,
I don't get the kickback and the talk back from millennials. I don't.
yeah,
I remember when people used to bash on millennials when you guys were teenagers,
yeah,
but no, I don't get the kickback. What I do, so I asked another Gen Z coworker, and my other coworker, him of the same age, and I asked him. I go, hey, what is it? If I asked you to do something, would you do it? And would you say? It's reasonable. It's a work related, reasonable thing. Would you do it? He goes, yeah. I go, would you give me kickback? He goes, no. I just say yes.
yeah,
I go, great. I go, why? He goes, like, well, you've been here a long time. You know more than me, right?
yeah.
I go, yeah. He goes, yeah. I'll just do it. I go, why do you think your generation? So I asked him, like, what's up with your generation thinking that they know everything, and
That's it.
and he goes, oh, and he had a good answer. He had a real good answer. He said, because we have the internet. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, if we want to know something, we're going to look it up on the internet. I'm like, yeah. Like, and we're going to watch a video about how to do it. I'm like, that makes sense. I understand. I go, but I could watch all the jujitsu videos in the world,
Yeah.
and I still suck
Yeah,
because there's no application.
yeah.
There's no practical application. Watching a video is not practical application, right? And so he and I both agreed, like, well, because she probably read some book or went to or took a college class on how to do something, that's no application. You
Yeah.
haven't applied it yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because it's like you're not coming out and saying that like, hey, I'm Howard. I have 10 years of experience as a teacher. There's all these lessons I've learned, which is why A, B, and C and D is why I'm telling you to do this. You just kind of say, hey, do this, blah, blah, blah. And obviously all those reasons are in the back of your head that you've already, thought through and know just from your experience. Whereas, I don't know, I feel like the coworker explained that kind of person, like, they always need those reasons. Why are you telling me to do this? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's just an accepted thing from when there is already like a respect in place that, hey, this person has this years of experience, they learn these lessons. And that, I think, to your point too, is like when, you follow instruction and just accept it at times, years later you realize, oh, that's why this person was telling me to do this. Similar to your parents, it was like, I was
Yeah.
wondering why they, told me to clean up my room or do this or do that. And there's like these
Mhm.
soft skills or hard skills that they're developing in you and you don't know. And I think
Yeah.
from us, right, we accepted that because maybe that was where we were raised, or who knows, some environmental as well as individual factors at play there. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like people like that always need a reason why, and I think it is maybe the prominence of the internet that they feel like they can challenge anybody because the internet's there for them to validate and verify. And it's
Yeah.
like you said, that while sure it's a source, doesn't always lead to, like you said, that practicality or that like you digesting that lesson. Because again, if you're challenging everybody, that's not necessarily, something you want to bring not only in a workspace, but like any team, any hobby or sport you do, right? Then
Yeah.
like it just
It
affects.
it locks it, it blocks your mind out,
Yeah.
right? It shuts your mind. And I've talked about this other thing like many times on different shows where I have another coworker named John. I'll say his name because it's very positive. And John's an agriculture teacher and he's a woodworker.
Just
And I'm kind of like learning about woodworking and I'm planting a couple plants around my classroom. I'm like, hey, John, man, can you show me what to do? I don't know how to use this tool.
yeah.
Like as a man telling another man you don't know how to use a tool. Like I'm at the age where I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't know how to use this thing. Can you show me? And he like shows me and he goes, okay, Howard, try it this way. Okay, that's cool. Try it this way now too. I'm like, thanks for showing me. Thanks for showing me. It's like, hey, let's plant these plants together because they work better, or like these are nitrogen fixing or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? I was like, oh, let me tell you,
Yeah.
right? And he gave me like an hour long tutorial on like plants and nitrogen fixing, and like why these plants should go together, and like how to use these tools. And at the end of it, I'm like, dude, thank you for teaching me.
Yeah.
But when she has to learn something from him, she treats it like a scolding or like, no, I already know. I already know. Like, dude, can you just like shut the fuck up and learn from the dude that knows more than you?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I'm almost 50 years old, dude. If an 18-year-old black belt came in and wanted to show me some shit, I'm gonna fucking listen
Yeah.
because clearly you have experience that I do not possess
Yeah.
and skill that I do not yet have. Show me. Show me.
Yeah. I think that's too, like bridging back to Korea and like Japan, like culturally, like comparing them from America,
Yeah.
right? Like the old people are so ingrained in their culture. And is I think also a reason why too, like, there's extended longevity in terms of life there because they're, helping out in schools or they like are given roles within the community to continue because I think bridging to a lot of like things we mentioned that their experience and knowledge is so valued for those reasons we're saying. It's like, hey, they've learned a lot of things along the way and they can, what I mean, propel you to get to what they know and more faster by just listening to, their advice, like your friend or
Yeah.
whoever, even in jiu-jitsu, right? There's a black belt is going to teach you things that they learned over the last 10, 20 years that they didn't know at your point, but they're trying to teach you. So if you just listen, what I mean, they're helping you ascend faster or get to a point faster than they did. So I don't know. I just feel like you said, the moment that you start trying to and like I said, again, there's a healthy level of questioning, but it also comes from like rapport with a person. And I feel like by questioning and always trying to argue and stuff, like you said, you're closing down your mind. It's, I don't know, you're not being open to learning things and it's affecting you and your growth overall. And I feel like ultimately why somebody does that is probably they have their own, I don't know, situations going on, whether it be like self-confidence or like how they view themselves that they don't ever want to know, like they don't know that they always have to know because it's like the moment they admit out loud they don't know, then it's like, oh, I'm stupid or something like that. And I feel like that's
Yeah, they feel
part of it.
embarrassed,
Yeah.
right?
And it's like if you just take it that, hey, we're all, on this journey of like learning, like you with your friend, like, hey, man, I don't know anything about woodworking. Like plants, like I know they're green, I know they have leaves, but like treat me about nitrogen fixing, like I don't know. It just
What does it
creates,
do, man?
open environment because you're gonna know stuff they don't know. She might know stuff that you don't know, right? The whole like different generations teaching each other, because it's like, you know, the new generation has computers in their lives, or the old generation doesn't. They can teach them all the shortcuts and tricks. So I don't know, like you said, the moment you start like not following and doing that kind of thing, it really closes down that opportunity for that like exchange of like in like education and lessons, like both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It you cannot have longevity at a job if you're just going to do that,
Yeah.
or you're just going to be an outcast at this point. Like nobody wants to work with you,
Yep.
right? Nobody wants to deal with you. And I think she's under the impression, because she's like really good at spreadsheets and paperwork and meetings. And last school year and the year before that, I never went to any of these like district level meetings
Ugh.
for the department. And then I'm like, and then so I was asked like, how come you don't go to these meetings? I'm like, because there's no benefit to the department.
You know,
She goes, well, don't you want to learn about like what's new? And like, I can read a PowerPoint presentation. It gets sent out. I read it.
yeah.
It does not pertain to us. It provides no value to us. Why am I going to? So other teachers maybe not. I do not like leaving the classroom away from my students and getting a substitute. I fucking hate it.
Man,
I hate it because I love being with the students. I love helping them. I love teaching them. I love seeing them struggle and challenge. We have a good time. I fucking hate leaving my classroom. I hate leaving my classroom and getting a substitute that's just going to sit there and get paid on our dime.
yeah.
Taxpayer, you and I, our dime. It's a stupid. And I'm like, and so these meetings are also stupid. And she goes, well, that how do we get money? I'm like, okay, now you're being stupid, because how we get money to fund our department is we do enrollment count. So the more people that take our department's classes, the more money we get.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? By staying on campus and encouraging students to take our classes. I go and I explained to her, I went to this one meeting.
Constant presence, or that consistency. Yeah.
And I went to one, and I got fed up with meetings. I went to one meeting, and I'm like, fine, I'll go to one meeting. And when I showed up there, our district representative was talking about an EMT program. She brought some guy in to talk about EMTs, and we need more EMTs. I'm like, okay, well, we don't teach an EMT paramedic class at our school.
Yeah, what?
And so after the meeting, I raised my hand. I go, so how does that pertain to? How does this benefit me and my department and our students? Will you come and do a year-long EMT class? And the answer is no. And then so the district person said to me, Howard, this is good for information and we should encourage students to be EMTs. I'm like, great, fine.
I'm not saying that.
But we have, I'm not disagreeing, but we have no classroom. We have no resources. We have nothing for that. So I wasted 7 hours of my day, and we paid a substitute $250 to sit in my classroom. We wasted money. We wasted my time. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
I go, this is nonsense. I go, you want an audit our finances? Go ahead. We don't misappropriate money.
Yeah.
We spend it honorably. Yeah. Everyone in my department spends it honorably.
Yeah.
I go, audit us. I don't give a shit. Good for you.
Yeah, it is weird.
And then so this year,
EMT in high school. I mean, like I said, always good to have the career things, but again, if you're absorbing all these teachers' time, it's like, hey, it's got to be pertinent to the school somehow. Beyond,
it's
not the kids attending, it's the teachers, and it's like teachers already have their career. Like they understand EMTs are great, and kids should become EMTs. But
I want to look something up online real quick while we're just kind of passing through. Like, there's a Mark Cuban quote about meetings. And I loved it. Yeah, what did he say? He says something like, the only way you're going to get me for a meeting is if you're writing me a check. He said that in Inc. magazine 2014. He also said, no meetings, no phone calls, all because of email. I set my schedule. But the first thing he said was like, the only way you're going to get me for a meeting is if you're writing me a check. That is perfect.
Yeah.
So I'll go to a district meeting if I'm showing up to collect a check for my department. I'll go. You're going to write me a big old check?
Yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah, there's
but if not,
good podcast to listen to. The guy essentially made a career out of like coaching people around meetings, because we have this meeting culture, I think, in America that's like, similar to what you're experiencing, right? People just schedule meetings, and it's without thinking about it. And what's happening, right, is a time transaction, similar to what you're experiencing in frustration. They're like, hey, you just took blank hours or blank amount of my time in a day for what? And so I have to look it up. I probably won't be able to find it fast, but I'll have to look it up and send it to you. Those were the podcasts I listened to. And it was like super cool because it was like, I don't know, just so different from like work culture. It's similar to like the Mark Cuban quote. It's like, hey, you know, my time is my most valuable currency. And
you're right.
Like,
I'm looking at.
Oh, go ahead.
So I pulled it up on my other computer while we're talking.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban, Elon Musk, all avoid meetings.
Yeah.
Right. There's no. They call it's a quote productivity hit.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right, Taylor. Exactly what you said. It's a productivity hit. You took time from me.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, the whole thing too, right? Because if you're not clear in like what you're trying to accomplish, most of the time the scope of meetings too is way out of whack. It's like what we're trying to accomplish when the time frame's not going to work. And it's like, I think in that podcast, he goes into saying like, you know, meetings shouldn't really be longer than 30 minutes because if they're longer than 30 minutes, you're trying to tackle too much. And like, apart from that too, right? It's not only like the meeting time you're taking from the person, it's like leading up to it, right? Because they're probably working on something and they have to stop to go to the meeting. They go to the meeting and they come back and they have to get, you know, the engine turning again before they're back in that productive state that you pulled them out of for this meeting that, you know, probably wasn't useful, and that, you know, it could be an email, it could have been, you know, something taken care of in an asynchronous manner that wasn't like this meeting that we're all in here for that wasn't valuable. So I'll just send it to you. Like I said, it was super interesting. I haven't read the book yet, but I heard about it.
Yeah, let me see that.
I was like, man, this is like really interesting because, like I said, it goes against a lot of what work culture. Can't really speak to America because I haven't worked in other countries, but work culture in America has become with meetings. It's like meetings are just scheduled when there's like unknown or who knows, somebody just has an idea and wants people to get together, but it's like, I feel like there's less thought into like, should this be a meeting? You know what I mean? Like leading up to the decision.
Like I read something a while ago about stand-up meetings. You ever have stand-up meetings at your workplace?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the concept of a stand-up meeting where no one's allowed to sit.
Yeah.
Because if you have and for those that don't know what a stand-up meeting is, we all stand around. One person says, "What did you do?" What was the 3 questions? What did you do the last time? What problems are you having? What questions do you have? Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do last week? What did you do? What are you doing this week?
Yeah.
What problems are you encountering? And if you have a problem or a question, then you ask it in a separate. Now you can have a sit down separately away from everybody else because you don't need everyone else's time.
Yeah.
So the reason we all stand up is to say that if we are getting uncomfortable standing, the meeting is too long.
Yep. That was actually one of the things mentioned too when he was like talking in the podcast, stand-up meeting.
So in my department, I try to encourage, if we have to meet, and if we can't just, you know, do an email, I don't do presentations. I don't make PowerPoint presentations because it's fucking stupid. You can read. If I have to make a PowerPoint presentation, then we don't need a meeting and I can just send it to you.
Yep.
And you just acknowledge that you read it, and then I'm cleared of liability.
Yep.
Right? So, and that's why I understand, like, we in our school, we have these opening year meetings where we have to talk about workplace nonviolence and all this other stuff. You know, like don't punch a kid in the face. Don't have relationships with them. Like common sense shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's 100. And I looked at the slides, by the way, for our school meeting, and it's 110. I'm like, how about you just and it was emailed to all the teachers. I go, how about you just send a confirmation form saying that I have read all the slides and I agree.
Yep.
If you disagree, come to meet me in my office and then we can have a question, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, there should be no questions.
Definitely.
There should be nothing at all. There shouldn't be a single thing.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, I mean, going back to the Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos guy, why they probably devalue meetings as well is because they obviously build companies and like finance and numbers are a big part of their success, right? And making decisions. And anytime you hold a meeting, right? Like just do a calculation like, okay, Howard makes this much an hour. That's gonna be that. Okay, he makes that. He makes
I'm gonna look it up.
You know what I mean? This is gonna be a $5,000 meeting. Is this meeting worth $5,000? No. all right, well,
Yeah.
we probably shouldn't have it. And I feel like that kind of, like I said, more of intentionality into making a decision about a meeting should go into effect, because now it's just kind of like, hey, we don't know what to do. We don't know about this problem. Let's have a meeting. It's like, well, I don't know if we should have a meeting. You know what I mean? If you were to do some of those calculations, because people would be like, oh, this meeting costs $15,000. That meeting where you talked about the EMT for 7 hours with how
Yeah.
many fucking teachers? That was probably like you know what I mean? Tens of thousands
It's
dollar
expensive.
meeting. Like, for what? Like,
Okay.
we didn't get anything from it. This was about kids' career choices. Like, this is kind of purposeless.
So according to Yahoo Finance, Jeff Bezos makes 7.9 million an hour.
Yeah, see, exactly. It's like, to get 30 minutes of his time, like 3.45 million.
It's
Or,
almost 4 million.
yeah,
Yeah, it's almost $4 million. It's going to cost you $4 million to sit in a half-hour meeting with Jeff Bezos.
yeah, exactly.
Fuck. Do you need a meeting?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
So that's, I think, I think obviously
Golly.
there's probably more factors that go into that, but I think more of how people should think about meetings is like time, because again, time, the greatest currency. Obviously, it's linked to money because that's how we pay people per day. But I think it's beyond that too, right? Because somebody's time in the day is their most valuable currency, given they have to accomplish these things. And if you're not responsible with how you're trying to like take up that time, then obviously the frustration kicks in, right? Because had those both sides of the coin where people aren't responsible with their time, like they have an hour and a half meeting. It's like, that was a 10-minute conversation. What do we do? Then you have the people that are like, hey, like get right to the point, 30 minutes in and out, boom, done. And you're like, wow, that was actually productive and effective and useful. So yeah, meetings.
Yeah, I want succinct meetings. It has to be important. It has to be deeply important. It has to be valuable. If it's not valuable and it's not important, then this is not a meeting.
Yeah.
This is a waste of my time, and I could be doing something else.
There's actually this other tool too that I think that same guy that did the book about like meetings and like how they should be in the corporate structure and stuff that I use. It's called, where is it?
What's
I'm
it
looking
called?
on my thing right now. Oh, she's
And I like that we read books.
yeah.
I'll tell you a book I recently read too as we round down the show. But you go ahead. Tell me do you have that one? I have mine.
Tell me about the book first while I try to find this thing.
Okay. So I have been reading Nassim Taleb. He wrote Anti-Fragile.
Okay.
He wrote Black Swan, and then his other book. He wrote a bunch of books, but the one I'm reading right now is called Skin in the Game.
Okay.
And I'm not a libertarian, and Nassim Taleb has a lot of libertarian values.
Okay.
But his message is good, and so he talks about skin in the game, and what skin in the game is a way of saying you should not make any decisions or have opinions. Excuse me. You should not make decisions for other people unless, or do anything unless, or give advice unless you have skin in the game, meaning you are directly going to be impacted by the decision.
And then,
so he says people that have skin in the game is like teachers, artisans, carpenters, right? You do a bad job, then you're going to suffer from your clients. That's what's going to happen because that's your product. But people that don't have skin in the game is like politicians. You make a decision that affects everyone, but even if people suffer, you don't suffer, right? Like think of all the incompetent politicians we have. So he says anyone that has an opinion that doesn't have skin in the game is a moron, is an idiot, right? Don't listen to them.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a lot of truth behind that, and I think to illustrate your politician point, one of the times I realized it's out of college, I worked for the federal government. Sister shipyard Pearl Harbor in near Seattle. But during that time, right, so they'd have these government shutdowns. So for those who don't know, right, we approve a government budget every year, and that government budget is what funds a lot of your civil service workers of all different sorts. So because, you have the back and forth between Republicans and Democrats, they can't always agree on a budget. If they can't agree on a budget, and you threaten a government shutdown where they eventually end up just like creating not the budget they both agree on, but like kind of like a temporary budget. Like, all right, we'll just fund this for the next year and we'll keep working on trying to agree. And to illustrate your point of like why, politicians not having skin in the game, during that time, they still get paid. All the government workers that are out of work, not due to their own fault, but because politicians can't come together and find some common ground, make compromises, that they still get paid. They're, their job's unaffected. Not that these people won't get refunded, because usually they do, but it's just more of that point that, like, once being a politician became a career, like, lifelong choice, and not how it was originally established as, like, a thing you do for 2 years. Like, right when the country first got established, it was like, hey, you were a farmer, but you do your 2-year service in the House, or, whatever position of office you wanted, and that it wasn't meant to be this lifelong thing, which now it's turned into over the years, right? And then that impacts people's stances, because now it's a matter of them providing for their family, and they're like, oh, I got to get in this campaign funding, I got to swing this, I got to swing that way, instead of it's like, hey, I'm doing this for 2 years, like, what I believe is what I believe. That's not saying all politicians are like that.
Yeah.
Definitely think it's affected a lot of them in terms of having skin in the game, because when you're this is your lifelong career, that, I don't know, I feel like you're more amped to change viewpoints and how you stand on things for survival more than anything, right? Because you got to maintain an office, whether you become comfortable with this lifestyle or whatever, or maybe you don't know what else you would do. So something to illustrate that point of, politicians not having skin in the game is, once the government shuts down, they're still being funded while they can't, what I mean? They've had all this time to make a budget, but they can't do it. But,
were you able to find that book?
The tool. So there was a book, I'll send it to you afterwards, but the tool I was talking about, because this guy mentioned 2 different things. It's called AI for Busy Readers. So pretty much it's on the same wavelength of, like, time being, people's greatest currency, and trying to be respectful of it, because, we've all gotten that email that paragraphs on paragraphs. It's like, fuck, I don't want to read through this. You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, way too much just to say a simple point. So the tool, AI for Busy Readers, effectively, it's, unless they've changed the website, but it's like 2 blocks where you enter, like, what you're trying to say. You hit generate or submit or whatever, and then it'll change it into, like, bullet points, or really cut it down, succinct it. That way it's, like, making your message or what you're trying to deliver more concise, because, for various reasons, when you're messaging your boss or other people, when you get that bullet point list email, you're like, I don't know, like I said, similar to, like, with how meetings are handled, I think it's the same way with emails, and probably with those guys, Jeff Bezos and too, when people are trying to get their time and they send them this long ass email, you'd be like, I get paid $4 million every 30 minutes. I'm not reading this shit. Whereas if you, give them that bulleted list, it's like, okay, you're trying to ask me for more funding for these 3 reasons, and this bullet point is, like, the return we're going to get. Perfect, done. Took me a minute and a half to read that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Let me get AI
for busy readers.
AI for busy readers.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, look that up. AI for busy readers. Let me give you one final thought on that one as we round down the show. Like, as students show up to the school next week, and then I get these emails, and they're like 3 paragraphs long from students about, like, wanting to change it to my other class and do this and do this. I'm like, I go, stop. Can you just send me 3 sentences of what you want?
Yeah, exactly.
Spare my feelings. Spare my feelings. Don't try to kiss my ass. 3 sentences of what you want. And in one of those sentences, it better be a really strong justification of why.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you yes or no. And so I've emailed back, and kids ask me when they finally write the 3 sentences, I go, no, or yes.
See?
That's it.
So it shouldn't be that simple.
No. That's it. That's it. Anyway, Taylor, final thoughts on culture, Gen Z people that don't listen, meetings.
Yeah, man, I'd say for sure, for those listening to the pod, those out there, whenever you're listening to it, I would say for sure get out and experience other cultures. I think there's a lot that, individually can learn, and, I think collective things that we could bring back to America to help, improve it. Because, like we talked about Japan and Korea, I think there's a lot of cool things they're doing. Not only, like, the values they have, but some of, like, the pride they take in the details. So I'd say for sure get out, experience other cultures, and then for meetings and emails, just value people's time. I'd say I'll end it with that. Yeah.
All right. Taylor, I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Love having you here. I love it. You got a lot to share.
Yeah, this is awesome. Like I said, good vibes, good times.
Definitely good times. And for everyone else, if you want to find the rest of the episodes, they're on Spotify, they're on iTunes, and if you just go to your web browser and type theannoyedadult.com, You can find all the shows there. And until next time, I'll see everybody later. Have a good time. Stay out of meetings.